Bloody- God, I'm bloody hot. What's the time? Hello, stream. Let's see, weather. It's only 21 degrees. It feels bloody hot. I'm really tired. That's fine. That is fine. Uh, I'm back. I'm back after I don't know how many days it's been. It's been like I don't know. I haven't been back since Wednesday. In fact, it must be Tuesday. Probably haven't been back since Tuesday. So, uh, I was away for my birthday. My birthday was on Wednesday, or last Wednesday. Um, so I had to go. Well, I didn't have to go, but I wanted to go to see my family, which is on the other side of the country. So it's a bit of a trip for me. So that is why I'm back here now, and back to doing Davinci's Resolve learning, so that I can get stuff ready for my YouTube video. Basically, while I've been away, I've been focusing on learning. Well, I've been focusing on learning. I've been making some. I made some YouTube ideas. I think I've made about 7 or 8 different ideas for YouTube videos that I want to do. Most of them are what I'd call like animated ones, like short animated ones. That's like trying to think of an example, like Jack Starber, I think it's called Starber W. Um, this guy. Real quick, this person who does these style of videos. It's these things. You got all these crazy things going on. I kind of was thinking more of the animation ones, like these. Always like the ways that, always like the way that these look. So yeah, these kind of style of videos, and then the other, the other two are more tutorial videos, more traditional style videos. So those are the ones that I've wanted to get working on. I just want to turn down my volume a little bit, maybe a bit more up, about there. Yeah, about there. It's probably about the same as it was before. Anyway, um, the only other thing I've done is that I don't know. I think I finished the edit page tutorial last week. Um, I had a quick look through the cut page. So that's this page. So this is the edit page. And we kind of learned some things like how you can drag these on. We also briefly went into Fusion and had a bit of fun with here, but I think it's here, transform tool. You can attach this to here and then this to here. And then you can mess around with moving around the camera so you can spins like that. Um, you'd never have it like that, but we learned about that. Learn about how you can mute this page. There's the media pool and then the standard pool, and then you've got effects and all of that stuff. So we learned all about that. And then if I go into the cut page, um, the cut page is essentially the exact same thing as the edit page, except it's a bit more, how do I put it, a more detailed view. I think you can still hear audio. Maybe you even can't. Wait a minute, if I turn this on. Sorry, this is edited so stupidly. Last week I did a lot of stupid editing. Okay, so you can hear audio in this. For some reason there's no... Oh, you can mute individual tracks here. And you can kind of do that here as well. Not much difference, and even in the tutorial video that I'm going through, which I will talk about who it is in a bit, but even in that, even in there, that's all the same. There's not effects. Yeah, there's not effects. This is more specific for cutting. That. I'm gonna mute this. You have all of this stuff, so there's not much difference, but I guess you are following the timeline more, so maybe there's a bit more extra stuff you can do here that makes it feel a bit more useful. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but yeah, it's good. We learned a couple of shortcuts. I can't remember the one to zoom into the individual tracks, so might be worth looking at that at some point. The command. Nope. I knew I'd bring that up. Shift or oh, it might have been X. Shift. I don't know. It was one of those. It was either X or Z or one of those. Doesn't matter. But there was the one where we had Shift Control and then bracket, and that would take wherever your playhead is, and where assuming you're over the selected video, Control Shift and then either left or right bracket. So if I do the right bracket, it's going to take all the video from here and then cut it to here. And then same on the other one. Let's do it that way, then you'll do it that way around. And it would also cut from where it is to the end here, so it would essentially do this. You can also move a video around like that, and then if you highlight the empty area, you can slide that along. Go back. Okay. You can also just do trimming like this here. Things generally trim and snap to certain bits, so you can trim there and it can snap right onto the video like that. You can also trim and make it snap to the playhead. I think it goes on these individual lines. Yeah, yeah, snapping onto those individual lines. But if you didn't want to do the snapping, you can turn off this magnet. It's just like a most. Actually, no, ignore me. It'll still go on each individual grid, but it won't snap onto the thing here. See, it does a quick snap to there straight away. Turn that off. Didn't want it to snap for some reason. Let's turn it back there. Just checking in case I do, for whatever reason, have viewers. So those are the main things that we learned. So the Davinci Resolve video that we're going through is called Introduction to Davinci Resolve Full Course for Beginners 2024 by Cassie Ferris. Let me remove these real quick. So this is the YouTube channel. And from what I've watched so far, I've only watched, what, an hour and 17, but it's been pretty good so far. You can see he does a lot of videos, and I think he does a course or so on Fusion specifically. So it might be worth taking a look at that at some point. Interesting, there's a crash course one here as well. So he has this 4-hour one, but he also has this 2-hour one. Maybe it would have been better to watch the 2-hour one, but hey, at least we learned a bit more details on this one. And you can make your own plugins. Take a brief.
Learning how to make our this little tab here. So now we have our arrow animating in, and you can play with this, and so now we can adjust that shape in the edit page. And let's just twirl this up. This will highlight this in red.
So, yeah, well, I'm not going to watch it fully. Maybe we'll watch that in future if we really, really, really want to go into detail about Fusion and all of that stuff. But for now, I just want to learn the basics. I'm going to be honest, I want to get this done this week. I've got a bit of time at the moment to do this. Tomorrow, I'm going to plan to just blitz through the rest of this course if possible. I don't know if it's possible really, but I've got today, tomorrow, and Wednesday really that I can dedicate time to. And I'd like to start on probably 9 o'clock in the morning, to be honest. But treat it a bit like work, because I've got those days off. So let's go through this tutorial. We're on the cut section right now. I guess for the record, hour 17:31. He's pretty much saying at this point that the cut page is pointless if you want to just use the edit page, but we'll go through it.
By default, these timelines are kind of designed to not let you have a gap between your clips. So I don't have separate tools for my cursor like I do here in the edit page, where you can grab different tools, grab your blade tool, grab your regular selection tool, grab your
I'm playing double speed, by the way.
Your trim tool. In the cut page, you just mouse over the edge of a clip.
Or nearly double speed. I'm using 1.75. Anyway.
You have one option. You can trim the clip and the other clips suck down with it. And that's just designed to make it so you don't have any gaps in your timeline, because we don't want any black frames or anything like that. We just want all of the clips to play next to each other. Now, there are times where you actually do want a gap, and you can change that option along with a bunch of other options here in this very left-hand part of this upper timeline. There are a lot of different options here. This top one is called ripple on. If we uncheck that, we can move it like this and it won't ripple the other clips down. So that's
quite cool. So I can make a snip like this, or I can use one of these. Unknown options, time of action. Off. Okay. Hmm. And now attached, and then that works. Yeah. Okay.
called rippling, kind of moving things down when you trim things. So it will let you have those gaps if you want to have those. One of the things we like about the cut page is just being able to quickly go through and trim your clips. Now, this does get a little bit frustrating when you have your audio offset a little bit, like mine is here. I have this clip's audio coming in before the video, and if I were to grab this, it's somewhat unpredictable what's going to happen here. And so it's keeping those same edit points, but it's moving everything down, which may or may not be what you want. And so I find that you generally want to use the cut page for things where you have straight cuts. You want to have a bunch of clips with straight cuts like this, because the more you do this kind of ripple thing, the more it's going to kind of mess it up. So this is really a great way to do something where you have a bunch of clips just laid out right after one another, something like a vlog, something like a news story where you just don't have a whole bunch of fancy audio and stuff like that. That's really where the cut page gets kind of confusing and frustrating, is when you have a bunch of audio that you're trying to kind of layer in and do J cuts and L cuts, especially when you have multiple tracks of audio and that kind of thing. It can get a little bit confusing in the cut page. And so the cut page is something that I've really used for things like vlogs, things like if I have a vacation video where I just have a ton of clips and I just play them one after another, I can drag them all into the cut page and really quickly kind of trim them up and put them together that way. And what's beautiful is you can actually use the cut page for the things that it's fast at, like, putting together a rough cut or putting together a simple video like that. And then if you want to get a little bit more detailed, you can just switch over to the edit page, and this uses the same timeline. So the edit page and the cut page, and actually all of the pages in Resolve, share the same timeline, which is one of the major advantages of Resolve being the way it is. So we can do some work in the cut page and then go to the edit page to get more detailed and that kind of thing. It's a pretty decent overview of the cut page. Let's take a look at a couple strengths that the cut page really has, and some reasons why you might want to jump into the cut page, even if you're not going to stay there for the entirety of your project. One feature that I really like about the cut page is the source tape. So if you go up in the upper left-hand corner of our viewer here, you have these three buttons, and this switches out your viewer between the source clip, so like a clip from your media pool, and your timeline, so whatever you have down here. So we'll just throw a couple things down here real quick. But this middle button is the source tape button, and look what happens when I click this. What this will do is this will take all of the media from whatever bin I'm looking at in my media pool, and it will lay it out end to end here in our little play bar. And then I can scrub through this and I can look at all of my media in one smooth motion. And so this is really great if you're trying to find a piece of media and you don't know what it's called. Instead of double clicking on a piece of media and then scrubbing through it and then double clicking on another piece of media and scrubbing through it, with the source tape, you can just scrub through all of your media all at once. This is especially good if you're trying to find a shot visually, finding some B-roll, something like that. And so what I do is I use this to find B-roll for projects where, I might have a voiceover and I'm trying to put B-roll over it just to accentuate what's being said. You can really quickly kind of buzz through your footage and find the right clip. And you can set your in and your out just like you would on the edit page, like this with I and O. And then you can take this and you can put it into the timeline. Now, you can put this into the timeline a few different ways. One, you could just drag it into the
Oh
timeline.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I remember doing the I and the O bit. So I can go I, and then I can go here, and then I, and then go over here, go O, and then I can put that clip. Page. This page. This is on. Oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's another advantage. So if I wanted to just see this, and then I want to go back to the video, then it goes back to the video. So it's like a 2-in-1. While this has it side to side, which can be good, but I really wish there was a way to remove this video. I don't know if that's actually a thing. Not. I'm sure there is, but I'm just not seeing it. Doesn't really matter though. I can still see the video from the other side. don't even know what the fuck's going on.
Expect. But we also have these buttons over here. These are the edit buttons. And whatever we have selected with our in and out here in the viewer, this will throw into the timeline in various different ways. One that makes a lot of sense would be place on top. And so we click place on top, and it's going to put that clip on top of our other clips here, right wherever our playhead is. So if our playhead's over here and I hit place on top, it's going to put that on top right there. We also have ripple over right. So let's say I pick an alternate angle here, in, out, and then I say ripple over right. What that's going to do is put this clip into this space, and it's going to fit the space to the clip. Boom. It's going to kind of replace that clip right there. And that can be really convenient if you're just trying to quickly replace a shot. Another convenient one would be smart insert. So let's say I want to put this in between these two clips. I don't even have to be right on this edit point. I just have to have that edit point be the nearest edit point to my playhead. And I can hit smart insert, and look what happens. Boom. It puts that in between those two clips. And so all of these are kind of designed to save you a little bit of time so you don't have to be exactly right with your playhead. You just make this as close as you can, set your in and your out, smart insert, and you can put that in there. And so this is really great for putting a whole bunch of footage into the timeline really quickly. This kind
of... Okay, so that's the advantage. Cut is really how you lay out your clip before you edit your clip, which I guess makes sense how you cut up your clip. You do your media stuff here, fill the media from your computer onto your PC, and then I go, right, okay, I want to cut this up, so I just want to grab this clip, and then I'll go in, and then I'll go out, and I'm going to drag that in there, and I'm sorted there. Or I could go this clip, go in, and play the mid. Normally you'd play the video there, and then you go out, and you've got these little settings, so you can ripple in, close up, place on top, also overwrite. Insert, so you just insert it there. So this is where the spot is going to put it on. So yeah, that's quite cool. Okay.
system working with the cut page and these edit buttons. What I think is even nicer is you can set keyboard shortcuts for any of these buttons. And so if you go up to the upper left-hand corner under...
By the way, I'm probably going to carry on going until about 10 o'clock, so that's about half an hour. And I'm probably going to stop from there because I'm quite tired today, and I've left this a bit late. That's okay. I think I will get cut page done at least, and then we'll be moving on to fusion. Fusion and color are the largest sections by far. I don't know why. I don't know why color is so huge, but...
Davinci Resolve under keyboard customization. If you click on all commands here, you can search, so like append, and that button is the same as append to end of timeline. A bunch of footage into the timeline really quickly. This kind of system working with the cut page and these edit buttons. What I think is even nicer is you can set keyboard shortcuts for any of these buttons. And so if you go up to the upper left-hand corner under Davinci Resolve under keyboard customization, if you click on all commands here, you can search, so like append, and that button is the same as append to end of timeline. And I like to set this as P. The reason I put this as P is because it's right by I and O on the keyboard. And so I can go through here and I can quickly add a bunch of clips like this, I, O, and then hit P. And when I hit P, it's going to throw this clip at the end of my timeline. And so I can quickly just gather all the clips that I want, I, O, P, I, O, P, I, O, P. And if you're working with more visual clips and B-roll and that kind of thing, I, O, and P, you can throw all of your B-roll at the end of your timeline, and then you can go through here and put them over your voiceover and adjust things and get a little bit more detailed afterwards. So a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll be working on my edit here in the edit page, and then I'll switch over to the cut page to use the source tape to grab a bunch of B-roll, kind of buzz through my clips, and just put those on my edit. And once I have all the clips there, it's just a really fast way to go through a bunch of clips. I can switch back over to the edit page, and I can adjust my clips here in the edit page where I have a little bit more control. It really depends.
I might as well put this on now. The only reason I don't want to put it on here is that I don't want to be showing everyone the video.
On your workflow and the type of project you're doing, but this source tape is a really nice tool. The other thing the cut page is really good for is doing multicam edits. Now, you kind of wouldn't think of the edit page as being great at multicam because it kind of seems like this is where you to make rough cuts and it doesn't quite have as many abilities as the edit page. But let me show you something really cool. I'm going to go into our files here under our media, under our cut page media, and here we have a multicam shoot of the read-through of our movie. So this is 5 people around a table. We have a top-down camera. We have a kind of the left side of the table camera and right side of the table camera. And in the edit page, you can make a multicam sequence and you can flip cameras and do all that kind of thing, which is definitely plenty to go over in its own video. But the cut page does kind of a unique thing with multicam edits. If we select all of this stuff, they're just different angles of the same moment. We can go up here to this button that says Sync Clips. And if we click on that, that's going to bring up our Sync Clips window. And here we...
Ooh, okay. Now, I mean, that's cool. In fact, we're on it right now. This is cool. It's going to be useless for me. I do have multiple cameras, I guess, but... Actually thinking about it, is it going to be useless for me? So I do have my phone camera. I've got an iPad camera. I've got a webcam camera. I've got a proper camera somewhere. So, what is stopping me doing this?
Have some options to be able to automatically sync these clips together and make a multicam edit. If you have timecode, you can sync by timecode. You can sync by the start or the end of the clip, in and out, or you can do it automatically with audio. And for most of us, that's probably what is going to be most useful. So I'll select audio and hit sync. And look what happens. It analyzes it, and then it puts
This is not helping. Let's cancel. Let's go back to this. I don't know how you enable that camera outside of this. This is quite cool. Audio sync. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it's cool. I feel like it would be easier in my head to just sync it, but I guess it's good that you can automatically do it if you really want it. Sync. Okay.
these all together and thinks about where these all fit together in time. At this point, it's a really good idea to play this back and make sure that the sync is right, but it usually does a really good job. And then you just go down here to save sync. Now, it looks like nothing's happened, nothing's really going on here, but what it does is it adds these little blue indicators, which means that it knows that these clips belong together and that they occupy the same moment in time. And so what we can do is grab something like our master shot, like this wide shot. I'll just right click and say create new timeline. And I'll just drag this down to our timeline here. And now we
Click this, create a new timeline. Let's call this timeline able test. Right, so creating a new timeline. Oh, okay.
have the entire shoot from beginning to end just with this one clip. Now, this isn't a multicam sequence or anything like that. It's just literally the clip thrown into the timeline. But we can go up here to the upper left and go to something called the sync bin, and we can see all of the clips that sync with the clip that we're over here in the timeline. And we can see all the different cameras and everything like that. And check this out. We can play this back or scrub through or whatever we want to do. And if we find a good angle, we can click on that angle, and that's going to bring that up here in our viewer, and it's going to set an in at the point that's going to sync with our playhead. And we can do something like place on top, and look at this. It's going to come in here. And if we switch off of our sync bin, we can see what's actually happening here in our timeline. As we play this back, this is going to be perfectly synced. And we can just add clips that we think are interesting, and we can do it perfectly in sync without having to set up a whole multicam sequence and switch cameras and all of that kind of stuff. It's almost like a hybrid between putting a bunch of clips into a timeline and just editing them that way, and a traditional
This is good, but I don't think I'm going to find much use
out
of it.
And this is how we can do our multicam edit, and it's just kind of a slick way to do it. And so the sync bin is a really nice way to be able to kind of scrub through and find interesting stuff and just find the best angle. So let's just go to this angle, drop that in, and now we have a nice.
I like the idea that it's in my head now, so I at least know there's something I can do there.
That works really well, and we didn't really have to do a whole lot of work syncing things up. So if you're doing multicam stuff, the cut page might actually be a really great tool for you. Now, something to mention about the cut page. The cut page is actually designed to work with some hardware. And so if you don't know, there is the Davinci Resolve editor keyboard, which is a whole keyboard that has specialized buttons on the left and a jog wheel and some other buttons here on the right. And this was kind of designed with the cut page in mind. And so it sort of brings some more tactile control to your editing. We also have the speed editor, which is like the next generation of the editor keyboard. And this thing's pretty neat. It has your edit buttons right here as dedicated keys on the keyboard. You're in and out. There's ways to trim and roll and do your different edits and add transitions, as well as multicam controls, some other useful features, switching between the source and the timeline viewers. And then, of course, you have your jog wheel, which helps you kind of navigate back and forth on the timeline. Like I said, this is kind of designed for the cut page. And so if you're doing a certain kind of project and you're doing a lot of it, this speed editor might be a really good idea because it's more about kind of building tactile control and muscle memory. And with some practice, you can get really fast editing things with the speed editor. And that's designed to work with the cut page to where you don't have to use a mouse and a keyboard. You can just use the speed editor. And it does feel really cool when you kind of get the hang of it. And this is also where the cut page kind of starts to make a little bit more sense. You know, using the speed editor on the edit page feels like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of cool. Using the cut page without the speed editor is like, oh yeah, this is kind of neat. But when you use them together, it really makes a lot of sense and things feel really nice. So depending on how much you're going to be editing and how hardcore you're going to be and what kind of projects you're going to be working on, the cut page, and especially with the
We're done with the cut page.
So
Thank
my
fuck.
advice is to open the cut page, try it out, see how you like it. If you are interested in buying the full version of Resolve, that's the paid version, the studio version, it actually comes with the speed editor. And so you can buy that speed editor for $3.95 and get Resolve Studio, which is $2.95 for free with it. And that's a pretty sweet deal. If you're into editing and you're going to do a high volume of stuff, would definitely check out the speed editor, watch some reviews. It's a pretty neat little piece of equipment. But that's pretty much the editing side of things here in Resolve. We have the edit page, which is really kind of the hub of your project. This is where you put your story together. This is where you add the majority of your media and everything. Anything that you want your viewer to see, you have to put into the timeline. The cut page is a little bit different flavor of doing that. And again, if you're just wanting to do some basic videos, it's totally okay to just stay on the and work with the tools there. But if you want to take things up a notch, that's where these next 3 pages come in. You can think of the edit page and the cut page as like level 1, kind of putting things together, the basics. But when you want to get a little bit more advanced and you want to get more detailed with either doing some visual effects or making graphics or doing color correction or doing audio, that's where you would jump into Fusion, Color, or Fairlight. All right, let's jump in.
Okay, so I feel like everything we've learned, like you said, like if you want to know the basics, media page, the cut page, and the edit page are the easy ones. Understand? Once it comes to the fusion page and the color page, fusion page, color page, what's this page? Oh, this is the export page. Okay, there's a Fairlight page as well. Audio editing. When it comes to this, look, you can now really fuck around with the colors. I don't know why. I do know why. Sorry, I do know why, but I don't think this is something I'm really going to be using too much until I really understand. But I guess that's why I'm doing this course, so that I understand why I would be using this. So why am I even discussing it? Let's just get on with it.
Into Fusion. This is my favorite part of Davinci Resolve, and I think probably the most powerful thing in Davinci Resolve as far as creating anything that you can imagine. Fusion, like the other pages, is like an entire app, like an entire different app shoved into Resolve. And like all of these pages, it has one major job. Fusion's job is to be a compositor. So, what is a compositor? Well, a compositor is an app where you do compositing. solid information.
Nope.
Or doing color correction or doing audio, that's where you would jump into Fusion, Color, or Fairlight. All right, let's jump into Fusion. This is my favorite part of DaVinci Resolve, and I think probably the most powerful thing in DaVinci Resolve as far as creating anything that you can imagine. Fusion, like the other pages, is like an entire app, like an entire different app shoved into Resolve. And like all of these pages, it has one major job. Fusion's job is to be a compositor. So what is a compositor? Well, a compositor is an app where you do compositing. solid information, right? Compositing is combining different visual elements together to make one cohesive image. And when you say compositing, that can be visual effects, which is like fancy stuff like explosions and lightsabers and making things that aren't real look real. But it can also be something like titles and graphics and animations, things that are kind of computer generated. It's all a similar process of putting a bunch of stuff together into one image, one composition. What this might look like is, let's say you have a shot of a cow in a field with mountains in the background. Something you might do in compositing would be to add more mountains. That can be a copy of these mountains, or it can be mountains from a totally different place. It could be some image that was shot on the other side of the world, and we're just going to put that in to our shot and make it look real. Maybe we want the sky to look a little bit fancier. Maybe we'll put some clouds in the sky, make it look a little bit more like a storybook. These would all be examples of visual effects. It's making something that isn't real look real. And they can be really realistic, like this, where you really wouldn't even notice if you did a good job. Or something crazy like, hey, we have a flying saucer that comes in and abducts this cow. All of this kind of stuff is what Fusion does. Let's say we want to have a title that comes in and animates on, and then a flying saucer comes in and then grabs the title and then lifts it off of screen. That's more kind of the motion graphics side of things. But you can sort of think of compositing as doing stuff that's fancy to your video. So using the Fusion page, we can do things like take this shot of the house and turn this into a nighttime shot and add fog and remove all of these trees and take away this American flag and add fake lighting. And I mean, you can do anything you want. If you have the skills and learn how to do it, Fusion can probably do just about anything that you imagine. So it's really exciting because this is built into Resolve. And what's neat is that you can take any clip from any timeline, and to bring it into Fusion, you don't need to convert it, or you don't need to link it out to any other kind of program or render it or anything like that. All you do is just look at the shot in the edit page and then switch over to Fusion, and it brings up that shot here in the Fusion page, and you can play with it and do all the fancy things. Pretty neat, right? So
Yep.
enough of what Fusion does. How do we actually do anything? Well, let's take a look at the interface here. There should be some things that are familiar by now. In the upper left-hand corner, we have our media pool, and this works just like in the other pages. It's all of the media that's been imported into our project. In fact, let me go up to Workspace and reset our UI layout. There we go. It's possible that your screen looks a little bit more like this. And of course, in the upper left, we have these buttons up here, and this opens and closes panels just like in the edit page. Same thing, media pool and effects both live over here on the left side. On the right side, we have our inspector, and we have some other panels that we can open and close that we'll get to here in a little bit. Over here on the right, we have our viewer, and actually we have
Wish I
two
just saw
viewers
this
here in
before.
Fusion,
Saw this before.
a left-hand viewer and a right-hand viewer. And for now, you can think of this sort of like the source viewer and the timeline viewer, although that's not exactly right. But for now, you can totally think about it like that. To here in a little bit. And we have some other panels that we can open and close that we'll get to here in a little bit. Over here on the right, we have our viewer. And actually, we have two viewers here in Fusion, a left-hand viewer and a right-hand viewer. And for now, you can think of this sort of like the source viewer and the timeline viewer, although that's not exactly right. But for now, you can totally think about it like that, because I have to explain a couple things before this will make any sense why there's two viewers. But just so you know, there's two viewers, a left viewer and a right viewer. And by default, if you play through the timeline, what you see on the right is what your image is going to look like when it goes back into the edit page. Now, in the lower part of our interface, we have the nodes. Now, this strikes fear into the hearts of many. Nodes are probably the most single intimidating reason why people don't want to use Fusion. Because they see this kind of interface, they see a couple boxes connected to each other, and they go, what the heck is that? Why is that? This makes no sense. How can something that's time-based not have a timeline with layers like the edit page does?
Thank fuck. Honestly, being a programmer has made my life so much easier. Okay, just so hopefully I understand this. This is media in, and this is the media that we are viewing, and then this is connected to the media out thing. So this is what we're going to see. This is the input, and this is the output, and anything we put in between. So if we add a tool, I know it's control and then space. So I can add any of these effects along the way. So if I was to use S-merge, I don't know what it does, but I can add S-merge. I can put this onto here. Do I not connect it like this? U to U like this? Oh, oh sorry, this is a merger one. That's probably the one tool I couldn't use. Let's do box blur. Add box blur, U to U, and then U to U. That adds a blur of some kind. Add more iterations of blur. That's quite cool. Replicate. I come back. So this box blur is the thing in between that we're seeing. So this goes to here. This goes to here. See that there's little viewers here, so I can see that effect in real time. But if I want to see what the media in was, I can see it like that. That's quite cool. So I've got box blur. I can really strengthen to the point that it goes invisible, or I can just add slight. And I can probably add a mask to that blur, right? So if I was to mask here, it's got to be mask here. Just write mask, mask, and I can probably do something else. That and paint in the blur. That's what I'm going to assume it does. And there we go. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Holy shit, I already understand how this works. That's pretty easy. I can add blur like that. I don't know how to change the size of the brush. Hoping it was going to be brackets, a bit like Photoshop. As well. Let's do that. And I can de-blur it over time. So that's quite cool. So yeah, okay. I already really understand the basics of this, I think. This is like a pretty basic programming thing.
There's a timeline with layers. I get that. What's with the Fusion page with these boxes? What are we supposed to do with that? Well, if you're thinking that way, then you're not alone. It's okay. The very first time you see nodes, it's kind of weird. So let's take a minute and let's explain what the heck nodes are, because they're really the key to working in Fusion. They're like the main thing that you use to make cool stuff in Fusion. So what is a node? A node is just a little box on our interface, and we link these boxes up like a flowchart. Each box has at least one input, and it has an output.
And
The
so
output
what
is this
flowchart
little
is.
gray. You get some water, you mix the. Here's another one I really like about making ramen. So you get the bowl, you get some water, all
Still explaining
consume it
this.
in timeline. So really all we're doing with nodes is we're making a flowchart. And by default, if you open up a shot from the timeline, you have a very simple flowchart. You have media in and media out. And each node has one job. Media in's job is to grab a video from the timeline and bring it here into Fusion. Media out's job is to take whatever we connect to that yellow input and put that back into the edit page. Everything fancy kind of happens in between media in. Cursor, it actually is just a bar here. This is our toolbar, but it doesn't change our cursor. It actually is just a quick way to make a node. You can just drag any of these icons down and it will create a new node.
Blur
And so
like
we can
this
take
as
this
well.
blur icon and drag that down in between media in and media out. And when this little connection turns blue, we can drop this on the connection, and look, it's connected in between these two nodes. Then we can select the blur, and again, anything that we have selected, we can adjust in the inspector, kind of the same way it works in the edit page. And as I push this blur size up, it blurs the image. So really, if you can do this, then that's essentially how nodes work. And now we have a blurry image. And if we go back to the edit page, guess what? Our image is blurry here in the edit page because this is using the output of Fusion to make this video clip. Of course, we can do a lot more fancy things than just blur things. So let's switch back to Fusion. Let's get rid of that blur. And let's talk about some of the major nodes that you're going to work with if you're going to make cool things in Fusion. So there are hundreds of nodes in Fusion. If you go over to the effects panel, under tools, each one of these is a node. Oh my goodness, how are we ever going to survive? So many nodes. Here's the good news. You don't really need to know most of these. You could just go ahead and there are hundreds of nodes in Fusion. If you go over to the
I
effects
can see
panel,
all my nodes
under
here.
tools,
That's cool.
each one of these is a node. Oh my
Color
goodness, how
effects,
are
color,
we ever going to
posits,
survive? So
edits.
many nodes. Here's the good news. You don't really need to know most of these. You could just go ahead and close this effects panel right there. A lot of the nodes that you're actually going to use are right here on the toolbar. And they have dividers that sort of break these up into categories because there's really only 4 different types of nodes. There are kind of some extra ones, but there's like 4 main types. And the first you might call an image node. For instance, media in would be an image node. And remember I said that we'd get back to these 2 viewers? Well, you can actually view any node itself in either of these viewers just by grabbing the node and dragging it into the viewer. You can also hit 1 or 2 on the keyboard to toggle its view in either of the viewers. You can also click these little dots you probably have 2 dots. I have 3 dots because I have an external monitor with a special Blackmagic card, but don't worry about it. Mostly you're only going to worry about these first 2 dots. If it's white, it's in the viewer. If it's black, it's not in the viewer. And so when you mouse over these, you can say media out is in the second viewer and media in is in the first viewer. Now this is great because you can look at any node by itself.
Jesus, you can give someone
instead of
mannerism with that.
what happens at the end, and you can kind of isolate different parts of your node graph, but more on that in a minute. So media in 1, this is an image node, and that means that its main job is to display an image. For media in, that's usually a image from the timeline or from the media pool. And so if I were to grab a piece of footage here in the media pool, I can drag this down into the node graph, and that makes another media in node. So all this does is just like play footage. It displays images, right? Another node that I would put in this category would be nodes that generate images. So for instance, a background node. This is one that you're going to use all the time. All it does, if I take this and drag this in, is it creates a solid color. You can select this and go over to the inspector and change the color, right? So if we have this kind of dark red, all it does is make an image that's just a solid red color. And it can actually create a bunch of different kinds of backgrounds, including like a 4-corner gradient. And you can do all kinds of fancy stuff with a background node, but by default, it's just a solid color. So
It's quite cool. So just add in. I wish there was a quick way to get the mask. Sorry, neighbor is playing sort of GTA game, I think. Control, ellipse. That's not his text. I just attach paint. Or can I not? Let's add mask. Mask paint. Okay, like that. This, add this to here. Paint, okay. Paint just allows you to paint on in general. Wish there was an easy way to know how to change the size of the brush. I don't know. Let's say you're a madman and you just want some purple circles and red circles. Like that. And then you're like, but hey, I only want those circles like here and here. And you can make that. Brush. Davinci Resolve. Change brush. Okay. Roll click. Okay, that's quite cool. And I guess you can just change that in the timeline over time. So you could just do this, this. Don't know why you'd do it like that, but on the off chance that you did, you could do it.
Even though we're creating this solid color here and we're importing an image here, really what's happening is we're making an image exist in Fusion. Same thing for this second node here, fast noise. What this does, if I hit 1 on the keyboard, is it generates clouds. And again, I can go over to the inspector and adjust like the detail and the scale, and we can see it's just making clouds. So it's creating an image. Same thing for a text node. I can take this node here, drag it to the first viewer, and I can type some text. And even though we're making text, what we're really doing is we're generating an image of this text. We're rendering text to an image. And so all of these nodes, these create images. And so I like to categorize these as image nodes. And I'm going to do a fancy pants thing here. I'm going to select all of these nodes, go up to Effects, under Tools, under Flow, there's a tool called Underlay. If I double click on that, that's going to make a little background behind. Go up, and I'm going to do a text. Same thing for a text node. I can take this node here, drag it to the first viewer, and I can type some text. And even though we're making text, what we're really doing is we're generating an image of this text. We're rendering text to an image. And so all of these nodes, these create images. And so I like to categorize these as image nodes. And I'm going to do a fancy pants thing here. I'm going to select all of these nodes, go up to Effects, under Tools, under Flow, there's a tool called Underlay. If I double click on that, that's going to make a little background behind my nodes. It's like a little tray that these things sit in. And if I double click off, and I can grab this little tray and move it around, and it's going to move those all at once, which is really convenient, especially when you have a bunch of nodes. Now, I can rename any node by selecting it and hitting F2 on the keyboard. Okay. If I want to deselect any nodes, I can double click, and that's going to deselect everything. And if I alt click on this underlay, I can select just the underlay by itself. So not all the nodes, just the underlay. And I can hit F2 to rename that. And so we're going to rename this image nodes. I can even right click and say set color. Let's just make those green. Okay. Image nodes. All those do is either open an image or create an image, and they output an image. The next type of node would be an effect node. And there are lots and lots of different effect nodes. So some examples would be like our blur. And if we grab this node and look at it, the blur itself, if I...
So I'm doing this. There we go. So a merge combines two image nodes. And then from there, I can put a mask onto it. Okay. Now it all makes sense. I don't know why it's only going to do it for one frame. I kind of wouldn't mind knowing how to make that last multiple frames.
I hit 1 on the keyboard,
I
there
think we'll
isn't any
find that
image
out in a
there.
bit.
Because an effect needs an image in order to exist. So if I were to take this text and plug this into the yellow input of the blur, now we have something showing up on this left viewer. If I push up the blur size, we're going to have blurry text. And so
I'm
an
actually
effect...
going to add that to some writing. Got some writing here. Four. Some Davinci Resolve. And that. One image can't be displayed over another without a merge node. Other thing I learned that you can effectively take any image node and apply a mask over it to. So that's quite cool. Add that there. So I basically just said, so I've been learning about Davinci Resolve, learned that the Fusion page we can display, learned that the Fusion page can display to you the effects by going to the top left of the screen and going to effects. So that's talking about this little page here, going up to here. This will give you all the nodes. This will give you all the nodes. These nodes too. We got nodes here. Ooh. See that. Is that? No. If I put a mask over this, that mask will only last for that one frame. That's interesting. The first type of node I learned was the image node. This type of node will output an image. This can be a media in node. Media in node, so that's this one. This that outputs the video. The text node and the fast noise node. So I didn't really show the text node here, but is a text node. Text node here. Okay, and as well, and display it like that. Example over, well, in theory, over the course of a few frames, but it doesn't let me do that. But in theory, you can do that. I guess if you draw over each and every frame, I feel like there must be a more effective way. The other thing I learned is that you can effectively take any image node and apply a mask over it. So that's what I've been doing over here. And I also talked about this merge node, so how you can merge two images together to put it into the media route. So that's pretty much what I've learnt. I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I need to go, and I'm a bit tired, and feel like that's the best that I'm going to be able to learn. So we got from whatever time we was on then to time did we get to? Lost the thing now. Oh, there we go. We got from 1:17 to 1:47. That's not too bad. That's where I'm gonna